It's 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night. A massive storm has just torn through your region. The power is out. Not just your block, the entire city. The grocery stores are closed. The ATMs are dark. Your phone is at 14% battery and dropping fast. Your kids are asking if everything is going to be okay. And in that moment, you realize something terrifying. You are completely unprepared. This isn't a scene from a disaster movie. This is the exact situation that millions of American families have found themselves in. During Hurricane Katrina, during the Texas winter blackout of 2021, during the California wildfires that gave people less than an hour to evacuate. And in every single one of those events, the families that made it through with the least amount of suffering had one thing in common. They were ready before it happened. Today, we are going to walk you through the 15 items that the American Red Cross, the gold standard in humanitarian disaster response, says every single household in this country needs to have. Not suggestions, not nice-to-haves, essentials. And a few of these are going to genuinely surprise you. One of them dates back to the Civil War. Another one is something most people never think to grab before a storm, but wish they had. Stay with us until the end, because the last few items on this list are the ones that most people overlook entirely, and they could be the difference between rebuilding your life quickly and spending years stuck in bureaucratic disaster recovery limbo. Welcome to Food Decider, the channel dedicated to helping you and your family make smarter, better informed decisions every single day. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button right now and give this video a like. It helps us reach more families who need this information. Now, let's get into it. Let's start with the most fundamental truth about survival. Before anything else, before tools, before communication, before documents, the human body has two non-negotiable requirements to stay alive: water and warmth. Everything else is secondary to these two things, and the Red Cross knows this better than anyone. Water is not optional. It is not something you can improvise, and it is the item that most households are most dangerously underprepared for. FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, recommends storing at least 1 gallon of water per person per day for a minimum of 3 days. That is the government's baseline, but the American Red Cross pushes that number significantly further. They recommend a full 2-week supply of water for sheltering in place. Think about what that actually means in practice. If you have a family of 5, a 3-day supply is already 15 gallons of water. A 2-week supply for that same family, that's 70 gallons. That's not a jug in the corner. That's a serious intentional storage strategy. Now here's a mistake almost every household makes. They buy a few 1-gallon plastic jugs from the grocery store, tuck them under the sink, and call it done. Those jugs were not designed for long-term storage. Over time, the plastic degrades, they crack, they leak, and you're left with nothing when you need it most. The right move is to invest in BPA-free, food-grade 5-gallon containers specifically designed for emergency water storage. They're sturdier, they seal properly, and they're built to last. And here is a detail that even well-prepared households often miss. There's a difference between your at-home stockpile and your evacuation supply. Your home storage can be heavy and stationary, but you also need to maintain a separate, portable 3-day supply, one that you can grab and go within minutes if a fast-moving wildfire or flash flood gives you no time to think. These should be pre-packed and ready at all times. Now, let's talk food, because surviving 2 weeks without adequate nutrition is not just uncomfortable, it can genuinely compromise your ability to function and make good decisions under pressure. The Red Cross recommends building 2 separate food supplies. The first is your at-home 2-week reserve. The second is a portable 3-day evacuation supply, lightweight, calorie-dense, and ready to move with you at a moment's notice. When it comes to what to actually stock, freeze-dried meals are the gold standard for long-term preparedness. They are lightweight, they require nothing more than hot water to prepare, and many of them carry a shelf life of up to 25 years. Yes, you read that right. A meal you buy today could still be viable in 2050. For your everyday canned goods, fruits, vegetables, proteins like tuna and chicken and soups, these are excellent, affordable options, but they require a rotation strategy. The idea is simple: eat the oldest items first and replace them with fresh stock. This way, you're never sitting on cans that expired 3 years ago when you actually need them. Now, a word about budget options. Ramen noodles are cheap, easy to store, and require almost no preparation. In a short-term emergency lasting a day or two, they're perfectly fine as filler. But if you're relying on ramen as a primary food source for 2 weeks, you are setting yourself up for a serious nutritional deficit. You need proteins, you need vegetables, and you need caloric density. Ramen gives you salt and carbohydrates. Build your stockpile around real nutrition and use the budget fillers as exactly that, fillers. And then there is warmth. This one catches people off guard, especially those who live in warmer climates. They assume that warmth is only a concern for northern states or mountainous regions. But the Texas blackout of 2021 proved definitively that a warm weather state can be hit with a life-threatening cold emergency with almost no warning. And when the heating system goes down, what you have in your home is all you've got. The Red Cross doesn't just recommend any blanket. They specifically highlight wool, and there's a historical reason for that specificity that goes back further than most people realize. During the American Civil War, soldiers on both sides of the conflict used wool blankets as their primary source of warmth in conditions that were brutal, wet, and relentless. Those blankets served as a sleeping bag, a tent, a layer of insulation, everything. And the reason wool worked then and still works now is a property that no synthetic material can fully replicate. Wool insulates even when it is completely wet. If you are in a flood scenario and your blankets are soaked through, a synthetic fleece blanket is essentially useless. It loses its thermal properties the moment it gets wet. Wool does not. The fibers trap air even when saturated, continuing to hold heat against the body. It is heavier, it is thicker, and it is far superior in a genuine survival scenario. For households in flood-prone areas, there's a specific tactical recommendation worth following. Store your wool blankets on the second floor of your home. If flooding compromises your ground level, you want to know that your warmth supply is dry and accessible above the waterline. It is a small logistical adjustment that could make an enormous difference. Once your body is fed, hydrated, and warm, the next layer of survival is about managing the environment around you. That means light, information, and power. And the way you handle all three of these during a disaster will determine how in control you feel and how effectively you can respond to what's happening around you. Let's start with light, because when the grid goes down, darkness is an immediate and very real problem. The standard advice is to keep flashlights in your home, and most people do, but the Red Cross goes further than that, and they're right to do so. The recommendation is to diversify your light sources, and the most important addition to a basic flashlight is a headlamp. The difference between a handheld flashlight and a headlamp might sound trivial until you're in the middle of a crisis and you need both hands free. If you are performing first aid on an injured family member, cooking a meal on a camp stove, or making repairs to a damaged door or window, a flashlight sitting on the counter pointing at the ceiling is almost useless. A headlamp stays where you're looking and keeps your hands completely free. It is an underrated piece of gear that proves its value every single time the lights go out. When choosing your flashlights and headlamps, look for models with adjustable brightness settings. High beam mode burns through batteries. Being able to dial down the brightness when you only need ambient light extends your battery life significantly. Also look for a strobe or SOS mode. If you are trapped or need to signal for help, a visible strobe function can be seen from a significant distance, especially at night. On the question of battery type, alkaline batteries are the most common, but lithium-ion rechargeable lights and solar-powered models offer clear advantages during extended outages. If you're facing a 2-week power disruption, the ability to recharge from sunlight rather than deplete a finite battery supply is a serious upgrade. Now let's talk about the single most underestimated item on the entire Red Cross list, the hand crank emergency radio. Most people hear emergency radio and think of something their grandparents owned, something outdated, something that feels unnecessary in the age of smartphones. And that assumption is precisely why so many people are completely cut off from critical information during the first 48 hours of a major disaster. Here is the reality. When a major storm or disaster hits, cell towers get overwhelmed within minutes. Thousands of people are simultaneously trying to make calls, send texts, and access data. The network collapses under the load. And even if you have a full battery and a strong signal, the internet goes down in large-scale outages. Your smartphone becomes a very expensive paperweight. Emergency broadcasts on AM and FM radio frequencies, on the other hand, continue operating through generators and backup power systems. Law enforcement updates, mandatory evacuation orders, shelter locations, road closures, all of this critical information is being transmitted continuously, and the only way to access it without cell service is through a dedicated radio receiver. Modern hand crank radios are far more sophisticated than they used to be. Most quality models today can be powered in 3 different ways: by hand cranking a built-in generator, by solar panels on the top of the device, or by pre-charging via a standard wall outlet before the power goes out. And here is the feature that most people don't know about until they actually own one. Many of these radios include a USB outlet port, meaning you can use the hand crank or the solar panel to charge your cell phone. In a situation where your phone is your primary communication device and your only source of GPS navigation, having a device that can keep it alive without power ports is not a luxury, it is a lifeline. And a quality unit costs between $30 and $40. That is one of the highest value purchases on this entire list. Closely connected to both your lighting and your radio is your battery management strategy, and this is something that most households handle completely wrong. It is not enough to simply have extra batteries somewhere in the house. The way you store them and the way you select them matters enormously. First, storage. Batteries must be kept dry at all costs. If flooding or water intrusion compromises your storage area, loose batteries scattered in a drawer are going to be destroyed. Store all of your backup batteries in a sealed, waterproof container. A quality Tupperware bin with a tight lid works perfectly, and keep that container on a high shelf, above any potential flood line. Second, and this is a strategy that experienced preppers swear by, standardize your gear. Look at every flashlight, every headlamp, and your emergency radio, and try to select items that all run on the same battery type. If every piece of your critical gear runs on AA batteries, you only need to stockpile one type of power source. You will never find yourself in the nightmare scenario of having a full box of D batteries and a flashlight that takes AAAs. One battery type, one stockpile. Complete interoperability. And then there are power banks, high-capacity portable chargers for your cell phone. A quality power bank can fully charge a modern smartphone 2, 3, or even 4 times on a single charge. In a grid-down scenario, that is the difference between having GPS, emergency alerts, and the ability to reach family members, or being completely isolated. Build this into your kit and make a point of checking and recharging your power banks every few months as part of a routine maintenance cycle. A power bank that hasn't been charged in 2 years is going to give you a fraction of its rated capacity when you actually need it. So your body is taken care of, your environment is lit, informed, and powered. Now we get to the layer of preparedness that most people delay the longest, and the one that causes the most long-term damage when it's missing. This is about your health, your identity, and your ability to take action. Let's begin with your medical preparedness, because in the immediate aftermath of a disaster, professional medical help may be hours or even days away. What you have in your home is what you have to work with. A first aid kit is not optional, but it also does not need to be an overwhelming military-grade medical pack. The Red Cross is clear on this point. The goal of your home first aid kit is not to replace a hospital. It is to bridge the gap between the moment an injury occurs and the moment professional help becomes available. That means treating cuts, burns, abrasions, and sprains. It means preventing infection. It means managing pain. A standard, well-stocked home kit that covers those needs is sufficient. What people often overlook, however, is the medication component of their health preparedness, specifically prescription medications. The recommendation is a minimum 7-day supply of any prescription medication that a household member depends on. And this is where people consistently wait too long. They think about this when a storm is 3 days out, and by then, pharmacies are either overwhelmed, closed, or completely sold out of common medications. The time to build your medication reserve is right now, during a period of normalcy. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist about getting an extended supply. Many insurance plans allow for a 90-day prescription fill. Use that option. In addition to prescriptions, there are 2 over-the-counter additions that belong in every emergency kit and are easy to forget. The first is ibuprofen for pain management and inflammation, which can arise from injuries, physical exertion, or stress. The second is melatonin. This one surprises people, but think about it. In a high-stress disaster scenario, with adrenaline elevated and routines completely disrupted, sleep is extremely difficult to achieve, and inadequate sleep impairs judgment, decision-making, and emotional regulation, exactly the faculties you need most in a crisis. a low-dose melatonin supplement can help your family rest properly during an incredibly difficult time. Now let's talk about hygiene, because this is consistently undervalued in emergency preparedness conversations. People tend to think of sanitation items as a comfort concern rather than a health concern. That is a mistake. In a 2-week shelter-in-place scenario, which is exactly what the Red Cross is preparing you for, your standard household supplies of toilet paper, paper towels, and hygiene products will run out faster than you think, and when sanitation deteriorates, illness follows. The spread of gastrointestinal infections, skin infections, and respiratory illness accelerates rapidly in environments where hygiene has broken down. This has been documented in every major disaster scenario, from Hurricane Katrina to COVID-19 lockdowns. Your sanitation kit should include generous supplies of toilet paper and paper towels, wet wipes for what the preparedness community calls waterless bathing, cleaning your body when running water is unavailable, and extra toothbrushes and toothpaste. These items are genuinely inexpensive. Dollar stores stock all of them. They have shelf lives measured in years, and they take up very little space. There is no good excuse for not having a solid sanitation supply, and its impact on your household's health over a 2-week period cannot be overstated. Now we come to what might be the most overlooked category on this entire list. Not the flashiest, not the most tactical, but arguably the one with the longest lasting consequences if you neglect it: your essential documents. Here is the scenario. A wildfire is moving toward your neighborhood and you have 20 minutes to evacuate. You grab your go bag, you get your family in the car, and you drive. 3 weeks later, when the disaster is past and you are trying to reclaim your life, you discover that your home insurance company requires original policy documents to process your claim. The bank needs proof of property ownership. The hospital needs your medical records. FEMA assistance requires proof of identity and residency. And every single one of those documents was in your house when it burned. The Red Cross is explicit about this. Keep physical copies of your marriage certificates, insurance policies, property deeds, vehicle titles, and medical records in your emergency kit. At the absolute minimum, store them in a heavy-duty, waterproof Ziploc bag. The better option is a small, portable, fireproof, and waterproof document safe, the kind designed specifically to protect papers in the event of a fire or flood. These are available for under $50 at most hardware stores and online retailers. These documents are the blueprint of your life. They define your identity, your ownership, your coverage, and your history. Having them ready to grab in under a minute is not paranoia, it is basic adult preparedness. And now, the final 3 items, and these are the ones that tie everything together. Cash. Physical, paper, small denomination cash. In our digital economy, this feels almost anachronistic, but consider what happens in a widespread power outage. Every card machine in every store goes dark, every ATM stops working, every digital payment platform gone. The only transaction medium that continues to function without electricity is physical currency. The Red Cross recommends keeping a meaningful amount of cash accessible in your emergency kit, with a baseline target of around $1,000, specifically in small bills, 5s, 10s, and 20s, not hundreds that no one can break. And there is a dimension to this that goes beyond just buying groceries. In prolonged disasters, cash becomes the backbone of informal community commerce. Paying a neighbor to help you clear a fallen tree, purchasing supplies from a local resident who has them to spare, compensating someone for the use of their generator. In those moments, your Venmo balance means absolutely nothing. Next, the multi-tool. This is one of those items where the value is almost impossible to fully explain until you've needed it. A quality multi-tool from a brand like Gerber or Leatherman packs an entire toolbox into something that fits in your pocket. Pliers, wire cutters, multiple knife blades, screwdrivers, a file, a can opener, all in one compact unit. In a disaster scenario, you may need to cut rope, force open a stuck door, tighten a loose component on a piece of equipment, open cans without a separate opener, or strip a wire to repair something critical. The investment is around $40 to $50 for a quality unit. Keep one in your home emergency kit, and this is the recommendation that most people skip: keep a second one in the glove box of your vehicle, because emergencies do not only happen at home. And finally, navigation and emergency contacts. 2 things that sound simple but consistently fail people in actual crisis situations.
Under extreme stress, the human brain struggles to recall information that feels automatic in normal circumstances. Phone numbers you have dialed hundreds of times suddenly become inaccessible. The Red Cross recommends keeping a printed, physical list of critical contacts: local police and fire departments, your family physician, your nearest hospital, and out-of-area relatives who could serve as a coordination point, stored with your documents in a waterproof container. Do not rely on your phone's contact list as your only repository of this information. If your phone dies, that information dies with it. And physical maps. Yes, actual paper maps, both standard road maps of your region and topographical maps that show terrain, elevation, and water bodies. If cell towers are down and GPS is unavailable, a paper map is the only tool that tells you how to navigate an unfamiliar evacuation route. Topographical maps in particular are invaluable in scenarios involving floods or landslides, where roads that appear passable on a standard map may actually be underwater or blocked by terrain. A paper map never loses signal, it never runs out of battery, and in a scenario where digital navigation fails entirely, it is the tool that gets you where you need to go. 15 items. That is the complete list. And if you look at them together, they are not random. They build on each other in a very intentional way. Water and food and warmth keep your body alive. Light and communication and power keep you informed and functional. Health, hygiene, documents, cash, tools, and navigation keep you capable of surviving the crisis and rebuilding your life on the other side of it. The American Red Cross has spent over a century responding to the worst disasters in human history. This list is the distillation of everything they have learned about what families need to get through those moments. The good news is that none of these items are rare, expensive, or difficult to obtain. The only thing between you and being prepared is the decision to start. Pick one item from this list this week. Get it. Then the next week, get another one. Within a few months, your household will be more prepared than the vast majority of people around you. And when the next storm comes, and it will come, you will be the one your neighbors are turning to for help instead of the other way around. If you found this video valuable, please give it a like and share it with someone you care about. Subscribe to Food Decider for more content built around helping you and your family live smarter and safer. We'll see you in the next one.